This is Ambassador James Okonkwo, Terran Diplomatic Corps. What I am about to reveal has been classified at the highest levels of the Federation government. The information contained in Case File 044 fundamentally changes everything humanity believed about our place in the universe. I was the first human to access the Galactic Archive. I was the first to read the Quarantine Protocol. And I was the first to understand why the stars had always been silent. This is the story of humanity's true first contact. This is the story of why the galaxy feared us before we ever left Earth. For 3 centuries, humanity searched for extraterrestrial life. We built radio telescopes spanning continents. We sent golden records into the void. We broadcast our music, our mathematics, our greetings in every language. We heard nothing. The Fermi paradox haunted us. Where was everyone? The universe was vast beyond comprehension. Billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars. Statistically, life should be everywhere. But the cosmos answered only with silence. Scientists proposed theories. Perhaps life was rare. Perhaps civilizations destroyed themselves before achieving interstellar travel. Perhaps the distances were simply too vast. None of them guessed the truth. The galaxy was not empty. It was hiding. First contact occurred on March 15, 2212. The research vessel Odyssey, exploring the outer edges of the Kuiper Belt, detected an anomalous object. Metallic, artificial, ancient. It was a warning buoy, one of millions that surrounded our solar system in a vast spherical shell. The message took weeks to decode. When we finally understood it, we did not believe it. Warning: Quarantine Zone, Sol System. Species classification: Human. Threat level: Extinction. Do not approach. Do not contact. Do not engage. By order of the Galactic Council, Cycle 7432. Penalty for violation: Immediate termination. The buoy was 10,000 years old. The galaxy had known about us since before we built the pyramids. They had watched us from afar, studied us, analyzed us, and they had decided, unanimously, to lock us away. We found more buoys, thousands of them, then millions. A perfect sphere of warning surrounding our entire system, designed to keep every spacefaring civilization away from Earth. We also found monitoring stations, automated observers that had been recording human history since the Stone Age, detailed files on every war, every plague, every moment of violence in our species' existence. The stations were still transmitting, still sending reports to someone, somewhere, who was watching. We were not alone. We had never been alone. We had been in a tuage. It took humanity 3 years to develop faster-than-light travel. Another 2 years to locate the source of the monitoring signals. A space station at the edge of what we would later learn was called the Orion Quarantine Zone. I was part of the first diplomatic mission. We did not know what to expect. The warnings on the buoys suggested we were dangerous, but we came in peace. We came with gifts and greetings and hopes for friendship. The station was empty when we arrived, abandoned in haste. Whoever had been watching us had fled when they detected our approach. But they left behind their records, their archives, their history. And in those archives, we found the truth. The Galactic Council was formed over 100,000 years ago, a coalition of spacefaring species dedicated to peaceful coexistence and mutual protection. Over the millennia, they had welcomed thousands of civilizations into their community. They had also identified threats. The Council maintained a classification system for newly discovered species. Most were rated as potential members, species that might one day develop technology and join the galactic community. These were monitored, studied, and eventually contacted when they reached appropriate development. Some species were classified as concerning, aggressive tendencies, dangerous biology, or unstable psychology. These were watched more carefully, and contact was delayed until they demonstrated sufficient social evolution. And then there was the rarest classification. In 100,000 years of galactic history, it had been applied only twice. Extinction-level threat. Humanity received this classification 10,000 years ago. The second species ever to be so designated. The first species had been eliminated, wiped from existence before they could develop space travel. A preemptive strike by a coalition of council species destroying a world to save the galaxy. They considered doing the same to Earth. The debates in the archive records lasted for centuries. Faction after faction argued about what to do with the violent primates of Sol 3. The evidence against us was overwhelming. We were the only species in recorded galactic history to use nuclear weapons on ourselves. We did not develop them against an external enemy. We developed them to kill each other more efficiently. We had driven thousands of species on our own planet to extinction, not through accident or necessity, but through sport, convenience, and indifference. Our history was a catalogue of horrors, genocide, slavery, wars fought over ideology, religion, resources, and simple hatred. We killed each other with a frequency and creativity that horrified species who had never known internal conflict. But more than anything, they feared our potential. Because despite all our violence, all our self-destruction, all our apparent madness, we kept advancing, we kept surviving, we kept getting stronger. Other aggressive species burned themselves out. They collapsed into barbarism or destroyed themselves completely, or simply stagnated in cycles of endless war. Humanity did not. We fought and we bled, and we died by the millions. And then we built something new from the ashes and kept moving forward. The Council's analysts projected our development trajectory. They calculated when we would discover radio, when we would split the atom, when we would leave our planet, when we would develop faster than light travel. Their projections were accurate to within 50 years. They knew we were coming. They had known for 10,000 years, and they were terrified. The debate over humanity lasted 800 years. The coalition that wanted to destroy Earth was powerful. They argued that the risk was too great, that humans would eventually break free of our system and spread across the galaxy like a virus, that our violence was inherent, genetic, unchangeable. They proposed a kinetic bombardment, thousands of asteroids redirected to impact Earth, an extinction-level event that would eliminate the human threat permanently. The vote was close, closer than I want to think about. In the end, the moderates prevailed, not because they believed we were harmless, but because they believed we might evolve, that given enough time, isolated from the galaxy, we might learn to control our violent nature. The quarantine protocol was their compromise. Earth would be surrounded by warning buoys in every language, using every form of communication. No species would be permitted to contact us. No ships would approach our system. We would be monitored from a distance, our development tracked, our wars recorded. And if we ever showed signs of transcending our violence, if we ever demonstrated that we could be trusted, the quarantine might be lifted. If we did not, if we continued on our path of destruction, the bombardment option would remain available. They gave us 10,000 years to prove ourselves worthy of the stars. We spent most of that time proving their fears correct. The monitors recorded everything: World War I, World War II, the Cold War, Korea, Vietnam, Rwanda, Syria, every conflict, every atrocity, every moment when humans chose violence over peace. With each passing century, the faction advocating for Earth's destruction grew stronger. We were not evolving, they argued. We were getting worse. Our weapons were becoming more powerful, our wars more devastating, our capacity for cruelty more refined. By the late 20th century, the Council was preparing to act. The bombardment plan was finalized. Target coordinates were calculated. A coalition fleet was assembled, waiting for the final vote. Then something changed. In 1969, humans walked on the moon. The Council watched in shock as we took our first steps beyond Earth, not through violence, but through ingenuity. Not to conquer, but to explore. And in the decades that followed, something unprecedented happened. The wars continued, yes. The violence did not stop. But there was also something else. International cooperation, global communication, a growing awareness that we shared a single planet, a single fate. We created the Internet, connecting billions of minds across borders and barriers. We established international laws against genocide and crimes against humanity. We began, slowly and imperfectly, to recognize the rights of all people. We were still violent, still dangerous, still unpredictable. But we were also learning. The Council postponed the vote, then postponed it again. They watched as humanity developed space stations, landed probes on distant planets, sent telescopes to peer at the edge of the observable universe. They watched us reach for the stars with hands that had once held only weapons. And they began to wonder if they had been wrong about us. When the Odyssey discovered the quarantine buoys in 2212, the Council faced a crisis. The protocol had failed. Humanity had advanced faster than anyone predicted. We were breaking free of our cage. The debate that followed was broadcast across the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, a quarantined species was aware of its status. They could not hide from us anymore. Some still advocated for destruction. They argued it was too late for containment, that humans loose among the stars would be an uncontrollable force. Others argued for immediate contact, that humanity had demonstrated enough growth to deserve a chance, that our potential for good was as vast as our capacity for destruction. The vote took 3 days. Over 4,000 species participated. The result was closer than any vote in Council history. By a margin of 7 votes, humanity was granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. Not full membership. Provisional. We would be watched, monitored, tested. Any sign of the violence that had defined our history would result in immediate revocation. But we were free. I remember the day the Council's message reached Earth. I remember the silence that fell across our planet as people absorbed the truth. We had been caged. We had been studied like dangerous animals. We had come within 7 votes of extinction. And now we were being offered a chance. The reaction was not what I expected. I thought there would be anger, outrage at the presumption of species who had judged us from afar, who had nearly destroyed our world. There was some of that. But mostly, there was something else. Reflection. Humanity looked at ourselves through the eyes of the galaxy. We saw what they saw: the wars, the genocides, the endless cycles of violence that had defined our species. And we saw something else, too, the art and music and literature, the moments of compassion and sacrifice, the slow, painful progress towards something better. We were exactly what the Council feared, and we were also more than that. In the years since first contact, humanity has struggled to prove ourselves worthy of the stars. We have not always succeeded. There have been conflicts, misunderstandings, moments when old patterns threaten to reassert themselves. But we have also we have created alliances with species who once voted for our destruction. We have contributed to galactic culture, science, and art. We have proven, again and again, that we are capable of change. The monitoring stations still record our actions. The Council still watches. The provisional status of our membership has never been upgraded to full. Perhaps it never will be. Perhaps we will always be the dangerous species, the extinction-level threat, barely contained. But I believe something different. I believe that humanity's greatest strength is not our violence. Though we are capable of terrible things, it is not our endurance. Though we have survived everything the universe has thrown at us, our greatest strength is our capacity for growth. We are not the same species that built the pyramids. We are not the same species that waged the world wars. Every generation, we become something slightly different. Something that learns from the mistakes of the past, even if we do not always avoid repeating them. The galaxy watched us for 10,000 years and saw only our darkness. They did not see the light growing within it. The quarantine is over. The silence has ended. Humanity walks among the stars now. Alongside species who once feared us so much, they considered wiping us from existence. We have not proven them wrong about what we are. We have proven that what we are can change. This is Ambassador James Okonkwo signing off. Case file 044 is now closed. The galaxy feared us for 10,000 years. Perhaps now they can learn to hope.